I identify pro-black.
History is about teaching us as a people that we're at war.
I want to speak about the image of our people. We have to be protective of our image.
Our ancestors, they were oppressed. And we
Hotep, everybody. Uncle Josh Neb, how y'all doing? We are so glad to be here with you. Welcome to the Jah Kev show. I am Jah, and this brother over here is Kev. And boy, we have a broadcast for you tonight. We want to first of all start off by saying we thank y'all for tuning in every first and third Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We really appreciate y'all because you guys do a lot for us, and we really want you to know that in our hearts, we're appreciative of it. We don't take you for granted. And having said that, I want to start off by making a special announcement. This Sunday, April the 26th at 3:00 p.m. at the Mission Branch Library, located at 3134 Roosevelt Avenue in San Antonio, Texas. We're calling on all of you. Now, I'm going to be making this announcement throughout this broadcast because we don't ask for much, but this time we're asking you to support us. We're going to be doing a live broadcast. What you see here, but it's going to be on the road at the library. And it's basically one of those types of town hall meetings, if you will, where we're going to talk about what's heavy on your heart. That's the title of it, Heavy on the Heart. I know everyone has something going on that they would like to discuss. Kev and I are going to light the fire. Then we're going to get off of it and let you throw some of the logs in there. And we're going to have a great time talking about what you want to talk about as it pertains to what's going on with you and what you want to discuss and what we can do about coming together and maybe seeing if we can do something about that, Kev. What you think?
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for people to voice their opinion about whatever it is that's, running inside of them, and I mean, politics, like you said on a video, religion, what's happening in our community, things you think need to be changed or what we need to change within ourselves.
Right.
So I think it's a good opportunity, make it more personable for everyone. Instead of calling in, you could just,
come on in.
Right. Give you a mic. So
I also want to say to you tonight, if you can, we want you to comment, but we want you to let us know, are you going to be there? We want you to come. We're counting on you because we want those who watch this broadcast faithfully. We want you to come out and get an opportunity to check out the Jah Kev show remote live. But tonight, we're going to be talking about FAMILICIDE. There's a lot of things going on in this world today, but this one right here, Kev, this is heavy, man. This is deep.
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
Well, I mean, the news recently that everyone is upset about is the Shreveport killing, the mass murder where the father killed 7 of his kids and another child that wasn't his, and shot 2 women, and the police end up ending his life. And I think he did that purposely. I think he probably wanted them to end his life. But that was the attention grabber now. But it dawned on me, man, that it's been a lot of this happening lately, just this month.
Right.
We've had a lot of women, Black women, being murdered by family members. And that's what the definition of familicide is. It's when a family member kills multiple members of his own family.
Right.
And why is this so prominent in the Black community? A lot more prominent than I thought it was, because when the incident happened this past weekend in Shreveport, I was looking at the comments. I was talking to a friend of mine. I was out there working out, and I was looking at my phone, and I told him, man, this just came across the news feed. And they didn't know the race of the person. But I was reading the comments, and everybody was saying it's probably a white person. And the white people were saying it's probably the usual suspects, Black. And the Blacks felt that it was the whites, and the whites felt it was Black. They were talking about the side of town and all this stuff like that. And I was, me and my friend, we were both thinking that this is something that white people do. And I was wrong.
Right.
After, they showed the person that did it. And then I started looking at the statistics. Then I started recalling of everything. A friend of mine tagged me in a commentary that this guy had live talking about Black men killing our women. And he brought to attention all the things that happened in the last 3 weeks.
Right.
I knew of all of them. I heard of all of them. I knew they were Black women. but I didn't put the pieces together. And that's what prompted me to say, John, we got to talk about this.
Yeah, you definitely did. And this is something that we definitely have to take our time and discuss, because this is going on, like you said, unbeknownst to many of us. But, you know, a lot of times when things happen, back in the day, it was the suicide, we would always say, is a European, or mass shootings, we would say it's a European. But now it's not so much that. It's something going on. And I really want to get into thought processes. I want to get into what is triggering this. What are some of the symptoms? What can be done? You know, these are the questions that we have to discuss. You know, Justin Fairfax, the former ex-lieutenant governor of Virginia, you know, killing his wife and his kids right there in the same home. Kev, this is a travesty, man. This is something that we have to look at the source of this type of behavior. How did we get this mindset of taking our loved ones' lives? There's a lot that we got to unpack tonight.
Yeah. And I'm going to give some statistics, and I have notes because this is new. We just came up with this basically today. You know?
Yeah, he threw me in, guys. I had my mind set on. He said, "No, we gonna do this." I'm like, "Okay, bro, let's do it."
Yeah, we had a whole total different show that we was going to give, and so I was like, "John, man, we got to talk about this."
It's important.
So that's why I have notes, and if y'all, you know, give me a little leeway on this one, but I'm gonna give out some statistics. It says 75 to 80% of victims of domestic violence, murder reports are women. So whenever you have violence in the household, or the victims of violence and murder in the household, the victims are normally women.
Yeah.
And when a few occasions when it is a man that is murdered by his wife, a lot of times it's self-defense, you know, and sometimes it's not. I know some occasions where it's not, but most of the times it's self-defense. And the thing that stood out to me was in the IPV, which is the intimate partner violence, and homicide, which is the intimate, the IPH, the intimate partner homicide. The statistics say that Black women are more likely to be killed by their partner than any other race in America.
Wow.
They're the next highest race, the group of women, is the Native Americans, which is not a lot of Native American, but they're going by per capita. So per 100,000 people, Black women, almost 5 Black women will be killed by their partner. Wow. And it's 4.3 for Native Americans. Black women are 3 times more likely to be killed by their partner than white women. And the Asian women is the lowest. The Asian and the Pacifics, they're the lowest in the country. Hispanic women, they're about almost 2 per 100,000. So black women almost double Hispanic women as far as being murdered by their spouses, boyfriends, or exes.
Wow. You know, and see, this is what I want to do tonight on my end. I want to take it on another level, as far as I want to discuss the reasoning and the thought process as to how all these things come about. Because when you look at it, when you think about violence, and it's not so much necessarily murder, which it happens, but just violence, period, when it comes to relationships. It's normally the man, the Black man. You know, growing up, I seen many men beat and whip as a kid their women, their girlfriend, their spouses. You know, every now and then a man may have gotten slugged, but for the most part, it was the male. So the social context is crucial to investigating this. So this means that we have to talk about something, Kev. At least I want to talk about it, and that has to do with Black male and female relationships. Because a lot of this, it stems from that, and it goes back to what I want to be harping on tonight. And I don't care if people say, Jah, you saying the same thing over and over again. I'm gonna come at it at different aspects, but I want to go and start talking about the idea of love, because that's where a lot of it starts. It's this whole improper view of love, because that has been embedded into us. And I got a lot to say about that tonight. So just let me take my time. But again, Kev, this is something that we need to really discuss.
Okay. And I'm going to talk about a couple of places, organizations and articles that I got information from. One of them was the NIJ, which is the National Institute of Justice, FBI reports and things like this. That's one of the sources that I'm going to be talking about. That's coming up with this information. In case y'all feel like, okay, Jah, you're talking about Black men and Black women, but what about them, the other people? But the thing is, as far as a lot of these reports go, black men is the main perpetrator in killing of his woman.
Yeah.
And this is something that we have as black men. I was appalled. I didn't know this. I didn't know. I didn't realize this. And I know it was another incident that happened where a black lady was married, or they was about to be married, just got married to this white guy, and they found her hanging. And this is something that was more recent, within the last week or so, or 2 weeks. And I was thinking, okay, that's because she, these interracial marriages probably end up, but that's not the case, and that's why I say I was appalled, because me as a black man, I'm looking at us, and why are our women victims of us? We're going through the same struggle. We're in the same community. Now, some of it is social economics and things like that. Like you say, the things that you saw, of course, you're going to see it because you're not in anybody else's community. But when we think we're seeing more of it, or I see a lot of it, it is a lot of it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And see, what I wanted to start off talking about on my end is the actual emotional immaturity that's behind much of this violence when we talk about harming someone because the relationship that you're in has ended. So what I go back to is, I have to say, well, first of all, it means that we have not been taught the proper view. We've been misguided when it comes to love. Now you say, well, okay, John, break that down a little bit more. This is what I'm saying. As men and women, but mainly as men, we look at love as ownership. In other words, when we get in a relationship with a woman, we don't see her for who she really is. We see her as our property. If you think about it, when you hear a brother say to another brother, "Is that you?" The brother say, "Yeah." In other words, is that your property? They're not saying that, but they have some type of ownership. And not only that, listen to the songs we have. These things have been embedded in our hearts, and it makes us think as though these people in these relationships, that we own them, every breath I take, in other words, it's stalking people,
Yeah.
And it's just so much about that, because love is not ownership, it's not possession, is insecurity, it's not love, man.
I'm kind of torn on that, man, because when we take our vows, do you take this woman to be your awful lady, your wife? That's my husband. This is my man. This is my woman.
But you don't own them.
Yeah, see, so that's two different things. That's what I'm saying. I think when we sing, we like, that's my man, that's my woman, that's my this, and this, and I think that's what we do. But the problem is there's a word for that, and that's over enmeshment. Over enmeshment is what they call when someone thinks that that you belong to them. It's more than just you, my woman. You belong to them.
Yeah.
Even after you separate, they don't want to see somebody else with you. You divorce, and that's what that is. That's the difference between me saying, "Yeah, that's your old lady." Yeah, that's my old lady, and she wants you to say that. Yeah,
right.
Why you not telling everybody I'm your woman?
Yeah.
But when you think of it, you taking it too far. And you're saying that you own your kids or they're your property. That's a different thing. And this is one of the things that they look at in the statistics that say when these people have these traits, they are the ones that fit into the category of a likely to murder your family or murder your kids. And that's where I got the word from. Over enmeshment. That's like having, and it says seeing their family members as possessions.
Okay. And see, here's where I'm at with that. I understand what you're saying, but what I would push back on is to say we don't necessarily go around saying that I own you, but in our hearts we think that. This is why when people break up, you have people fighting, especially men. If they see their woman or the ex with another person, they want to throw blows, or the women may put sugar in the tank, call you some names, they may do something to the women or what have you. But for the most part, like you mentioned earlier, we have it bad as men. We don't necessarily say it, but it's all in our music. It's all in the way we talk. It's all in what we do, which has created a psychological bondage for many of us, not all of us, for many of us who think that way, although we don't say it. And that's why it's so hard. I'm using the word now, or some phrases. It's so hard to say goodbye when you break up, as opposed to.
I think that's for men and women, period. I think what it is the nature of man is, I think with the emotional nature of man, when we get hurt, we get angry. When someone, that's the emotion that takes over no matter what. I had a friend of mine, him and his wife been married for a while. They separated.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring this up. He would talk to me, and the thing was, he wanted, hey man, let's go out. Let's the fellas go hang out. And I go clubbing and nothing. So we went to play pool, me, him, and another friend of mine. They didn't know each other. I introduced them. His motive was to make his wife jealous.
Okay.
And he kept saying that while we was out. Like, we out playing pool and talking and joking. And he said, yeah, man, she probably came by the house and saw my car, you know, whatever, not there. And I'm like, why are you still talking? I thought you trying to get away. And that was his motive. So when he came home, like, I was dropping everybody off, right? And he came home, he called me. Like, this is like, you know, I dropped him off. I had to go home. He called me. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? Did you forget something? And he's basically crying. So he has that emotional attachment with that, but he was crying. I was like, what's going on? You know, I didn't know how to react when somebody, you know, we're not like women, you know, we're not emotional like that, or, you know, but he was crying and he was like, man, I went by where she was at. I guess she was with her mom, staying with her mom, and her car wasn't there. So it backfired on him, but he was hurt and he was crying. But I remembered in this, I'm bringing this up because when they start going through their little counseling thing and they're talking, he called me and his thing was anger, even though I know he was hurt. He was emotionally attached. But when they're going through their little counseling or whatever, he said, man, she said, she gonna sit up there and say this about me. He said, I wanted to take this board and crack her in the forehead. And I'm like, bro, that's not what that's about. Like, and my thing is, see, you showing anger because you're hurt. You're still showing anger. And I think that's what we tend to do as men. You know, we be like, F her, you know, blah, 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 this type of macho thing that we do with our friends, even though we might be feeling, man, I ain't worried about her, you know, this and this. But inside, so when it's somebody else, it's an anger. But women do that too. I know for a fact they do that too. But I'm saying with us, we're more violent group of people.
We are, and I also think we don't know what to do with it, Kev, because all of our lives, just think of yourself, and I think of myself, all of our lives, no one has ever told us when you're in love, quote unquote, that's a strong emotional attachment, as you mentioned, and it makes us act different ways. And for the most part, we've not been taught what we're talking about now, as far as when you're in a relationship, you don't own that person. But when you see that person, and if you break up with that person, those feelings, those emotions, you want to hurt, you want to harm someone. And that's a natural inclination that we have not had a lot. We've had just the opposite. If I can't have you, nobody else will.
Yeah. And I think that's a male problem because we're the physically more dominant gender. I think if women was physically more dominant, they would be, you know, we'll be in trouble because they're so, you know, emotional and get upset about things. And I think they would be more outward and aggressive with it if they were, you know, the more dominant physical gender. Because I'm looking at the things I was studying, I was looking at, they're talking about worldwide, man.
Right,
this is like worldwide. Now, in the United States, it's black men killing black women more, but I'm talking about worldwide. They was doing these studies, but they also what they had with the IPH, they had factors that lead into when they find the people that actually killed family, or their wives, or their wives and their children, whatever happened, or they look at the ones that did the murder suicide. And they looked at those individuals, and some of the factors are they're controlling. See, saying that you're mine and all, that's fine. See, I could say, hey, you're mine, you my woman, you my lady, blah blah blah. But if you want to leave, okay, you're not mine no more.
Yeah, but how many men, brother?
But I'm saying the people that's controlling, that's controlling when you think that and women to say that too. You're not going anywhere. right. You know, and it's like, hey man, I'm tired of this. No, you ain't going anywhere. You locked into this. And there's people that do that. They have that controlling, or they stalk. Stalking is another way of control. They want to know everything that you're doing, even when you're not with them. Or say, like, if you're in a relationship, and this is what I'm talking about. This is a corrective measure that we could look at. When you have an individual that wants to be controlling and knowing everywhere that you're at, and stalking you, even like the stalking is like without you knowing. So they're trying to, like, okay, they show up someplace and try to hide to see, okay, did you get off of work on time? What did you do? See, those are what we would call red flags. So this is what I'm talking about. So when you're getting into a relationship and you see somebody that's always like, let me see your phone, let me do this, you know, you feel like they're controlling, then that's a red flag.
Yeah, it's a red flag, all right. But when you copulate with that person and you do things with that person, realistically, you know, we're not going to do anything to get away from that, because I can tell you, many of my friends and myself included, growing up, we knew what we knew about these people, and some of these things we liked it about these people.
Yeah, or we just overlooked it because we liked something more about it.
Yeah.
I think this is what a lot of women do. They look past some of those things, because another thing they said was a history of abuse. Now, when you talk to somebody, you meet, you know, hey, you find out about their family. You know, hey, how did you grow up? And somebody said, man, my dad used to beat me. He used to beat my mom. Did you know they probably have some type of issues? And then you may ask them, well, how do you feel about that? You shouldn't want to know how a man feels about hitting a woman. And this is something that I find interesting, man. When I see, like, I'm not for any man physically punching a woman. You know, I understand you get it and you could grab somebody or do whatever. Or I always say, man, you could just take her down. You know, she's trying to fight me. Well, you're stronger than her. You know what I'm saying? It's just like a kid trying to fight me. I could just take that kid and manhandle him, put him down, pin him down, whatever. But if I punch him, then something is wrong with me. So, and when I see these videos, and it was a video in particular where it was a automobile road rage type thing, whatever is white and black. And it was a white couple, and it was a black man. So the men was getting into it, talking. And the woman came up and she was taking up for her husband, and she called him like the N-word. And the brother turned around and he cold cocked her. And he knocked her out. She couldn't even protect herself going down. And I got mad. And I said, he a coward. And a lot of black women came at me like, you were like, whatever, you were, you know, calling me out my name. I'm like, whatever. Like, I don't appreciate, or I don't approve of a man using his full force of punching a woman. And they said, well, that white people would do this to you. And I said, but they didn't do that to him. They wasn't hanging his daughter. They wasn't doing anything to him. That was a word. If you want to get mad at that man and cold like him. You don't hit a woman. And a lot of the women, I'm talking about, a group was coming at me for that. So I'm saying, see, so women is like, if a woman put your hands on a man, if she puts his hand on a man, he got a right to put his hands. And I don't. Well,
no, you're right. I agree with you 100%. And I think what we need to look at is there's some psychological cleansing that needs to take place in the minds of us as people, men and women, especially men and women sometimes, because you have to look at the question is, how do we relate to one another? That's the question. How do we relate to one another? Especially, which I want to bring up now, in past relationships. If I'm in a relationship with a woman and I've been with her for 5 years and we break up, I still have a lot of that stuff in me that she did to me or that I didn't get over, and I'm bringing it into another relationship. And then this next woman who has no idea that I'm the way I am based upon me still trying to get through this, I'm beginning to mess her life up in a sense, because now I'm dumping out all of these idiosyncrasies. I'm dumping all this out on her, and she's wanting to know what is going on. And
luggage.
So, and
that's what we call it.
Crazy.
Luggage. You carry your luggage from your last relationship. And I think that's normal. People do that. I think you have trepidations about things, or you have indicators. Like I said, the thing is history of abuse. So if you felt like something was wrong in your last relationship, or if a woman felt like, hey, you know, I'm not going to put up with this, she's bringing something we learned from our experiences. Now, when you're automatically, another thing is if you're thinking you're controlling somebody and you're putting that luggage on somebody else, but that's a communication thing. And if it's like that, if that person has a history of abuse and they're bringing that into your relationship, then maybe that's a red flag to say, you know, maybe, you know, you should do some healing first before we get together, because I got to look out for the best of my interests as well. Now, for a woman, if a man is doing that, that could be dangerous. See, for us, we don't think of it as a danger, a physical or mortal danger. But for women, since they get murdered, most women, the homicides of women are done by men. Most women are killed by men. And most women are killed. I think it's like 70%, 75% of the murders or the homicides of women is men that they know. And 63% of those men that they know were maybe like a boyfriend, a husband, or ex. So it's always someone that they know that's killing them. So my thing is, women have to be more selective and see these factors before they get deep into a relationship.
Well, and I think it goes both ways, and you're absolutely correct. But I also want to say, and men, we have to learn as we growing up, which we don't take the time to learn what a person is, how to treat a person, know that you can't control that person, know that you don't own that person, know that when you see that person in another relationship that after you've been with that person, know that that's a process that you have to go through. And you can't always physically abuse and hurt someone just because your emotions are getting the best of you, because you're carrying on that lethal and that toxic stuff with you. So you're right. It goes both ways. But for the most part, as men, we, to some degree, we can say all we want to, that we don't look at them as property and all of that. But a lot of times men get in fights. If you were with a woman and I'm with her now, we see each other out at the club, you're you're rolling your eyes at me, but you're really angry with her, and saying I'm looking at you. So we get in a fight, and the fight is because you still have something going on in you about that woman, but now that I have her, so now we got to, and it's always something. So as men, we got to start working on realizing that
you got to learn how to let go.
Yeah, you have to.
If she was,
it's
I'm
hard,
gonna say this:
it's hard.
If she was my wife, if she was my woman, she was my fiance, whatever. Y'all can say, Kev, you ain't married. I've been in relationships like that.
Okay.
If I see her out with somebody,
well, see, Kev, I'm
saying, I'm talking about me. I ain't talking about
nobody. I was gonna say, I got to
see. You can say that, but I'm talking about me, because my thing is, I am not going to stay in a relationship with somebody at the moment, said to hell with him, or they sneaking away. What am I going to do? So now I'm going to try to control her. You emotionally attached. Now you saying that you won't be like that, or maybe somebody else won't be like that. That's fine. So what you going to do? She's showing you a history. She just put down a history mark right there. I'm willing, when you got your back turned, you can't trust me. So if I can't trust you, what I'm going to do? Try to make it so that I could trust you. I'm going to try to control you. So now I'm going to start worrying about every place you at. I'm not going to do all of that.
Yeah, but see, a lot of brothers aren't like that though, Kev, and I applaud you for that, and I'm like that as well. But most of us, and I can say most, because this is why we have all the turmoil that we have in relationships, is because men can't kiss and say goodbye when it's goodbye. It's like never can say goodbye. It's always something that's going to bring us back, because a lot of times what it boils down to, you mentioned it earlier, we're hurting inside. Okay. And we don't know how to deal with that. Now, I'm not giving us an excuse to do anything, because that's not what we're talking about. But I'm trying to say that in many relationships, people have this attitude: if I can't have you, then no one else will. Love, they look at love as a feeling. They look at love as control. They look at love as changing someone into who they want that person to be. They look at love as copulation. As long as they're in the bed, they're happy. They look at love as a jealous type of thing. These are the things that many of us men, we hold in our hearts. And this is why we should have these kind of discussions. Even when we're growing up, men out there should tell their sons and daughters, when you start dating, you have to have these discussions. That's not you don't own that person. But if you don't hear that, but in all the songs you listen to is, if the B does you wrong, you do this, then these are the things that we have been
see, a lot of this stuff, I don't think that's what's happening with murder in your family. I don't think that's what's happening. Because you're not doing, there's no reason for you to murder your kids.
There's no reason for it. No.
So it's more than that. That's what I'm saying. That's a lot more. We could talk about love. To me, love is, and people will say they did it in the name of love. You're not murdering your kids in the name of love.
I know.
So I'm not subscribing to anybody saying, well, we got to learn how to just say, let it go. I mean, because sometimes women want you to fight for them, not fight physically, but they want you to, hey, they do. Well, I'm not happy, whatever. And they want you to do this, but I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking. I'm upset because the vice mayor, Nancy Bowen, was killed by her husband. She was shot 3 times. Coral Springs, Florida. She was the vice mayor. This happened on April the 1st. To me, that is something very disturbing about that. When he shot her, he wrapped her body in a comforter, laid her on the master bed, laid her there. He shot her 3 times with a shotgun. Went downstairs and went to sleep and stayed the night, then went and gave his shotgun to his uncle and told him what he did. I don't care what you think is going on with that woman. You have no right to take anybody's life,
of course not,
over whatever dispute you're going to have.
You're right.
And April 16th, we have Dr. Serena Fairfax. She was a dentist. She was a murder-suicide victim. She was divorced. She had 2 children with her husband, and He was a former lieutenant governor of Virginia. I think you were bringing that up.
Right.
He murdered her. You know, that's there's no reason.
You're right.
You left your kids. And I mean, this is not a murder. This is not where you killed the kids too, but you killed their mother. And so to me, that's like, it's no reason. Barbara Deere, wife of the Cook County Commissioner in Illinois, April the 15th, the day before Fairfax was murdered, she was killed by her son. 22 years old. He had a twin and they had a younger sister, but he killed his own mother and killed himself. You know, I think he shot her 3 times and then killed herself. These are things these are family members.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the son of the mother. That's not saying, okay, you're mine, you can't go anywhere, right. And all this stuff like that. April 6th, North Carolina pastor Tammy McCullum, she was killed by her husband. Same thing, and he just asked God to forgive him because he told him that he killed her. He just and they were on the phone, and somebody said that he said, I'm tired of this, whatever, and he just turned a weapon on her and killed her. And then he's asking for forgiveness. Now I'm gonna say this also. See, I have personal things that I haven't even looked at. I've seen these things happen. Many of us here in San Antonio, we know of the Route 87 liquor store over there off of Rigsby with Gina Bird and her husband. It was a murder-suicide. Now, remember, different people I know was calling me and they're like, did you hear what happened? Did you hear what happened? I'm like, no, I don't know what y'all talking about. Then, of course, I did know, but everybody did. They found a couple dead. They was a popular. My sister knew him. My mom knew him. It's like, okay, my friends knew him. My cousin knew him. And everybody's calling me. They don't know that everybody else, but it was like they looked like the perfect couple to everybody else. They dressed like they, you know, them couples that put on the same stuff and you don't know what's happening in their household. But it's like that type of thing happened. That's a murder suicide. And then I had a friend of mine I went to school with, off the pen. I played ball with him and everything. And this happened a while back. This is one of the first people that I've seen. Now, he got murdered by his baby mama. They had a kid together. She killed him when he came to the house to either pick up his son, his 6-year-old son. And I think she killed him first. She killed her daughter that wasn't his. She had then she killed her son, their son. Then she killed herself. And I'm like, what? Like, this is, but see, I'm not putting all these things together. I've known people that did all of this stuff, that had incidents. People when I worked coach for the Apaches. This is something more recent. The woman, the guy shot her. Shot himself. He thought he killed her, but she survived. And I'm listening. I'm seeing. I was like, I know her. And it's like all of these people are black, but it's not registering to me that this is a problem in the black community.
And see, what I want to say to all of that is, you said something earlier, and when you were talking, and I think that's where it all boils down to. These crimes are heinous, and we will not be able to find, to pinpoint, why this happened. Especially when you look at people that supposedly are in love and then they're in hate. And it's like, you would never think of these things. If you heard that, next week you looked at the news and Jah, he did this, and you're like, I wouldn't have never thought that. So I'm saying that in the heart of people, you don't know what people are going through. All we can do as people is bring it out and let people know when it comes to the controlling aspect and all that. But some people, it has nothing to do with this whole thing about love and the relationships that I'm talking about. You're talking about something totally different, but we're talking about the same thing. Is when a person is involved with another person, they're in a relationship. And sometimes people do things that are inexplicable. We cannot explain. And it doesn't make sense. Even as you're talking now, I'm shaking my head saying, what type of person would give you 20 years of their life or even less than that, and then one day you come home for whatever reason that you say and do something to them like that? And this is a problem in the African American community, and a lot of times we don't discuss it because we're afraid to go through what really is going on. And it's a problem that we all are dealing with, and yet we have to be able to talk about it. I think
we don't understand it. I don't know if we're afraid of it. I think it's something that we don't understand. It's some of the other factors besides control, stalking, and history of abuse is chemical abuse. Some people, they find that a lot of people that do these type of things, they have chemical dependencies and things like this. They're unbalanced, they're imbalanced. Abandonment. A lot of these times, some of these situations I brought up in the thing with Shreveport, it was a thing where she was divorcing him. She was, you know, and she wanted the kids because it was infidelity. So what his reaction was, that was, I guess, crushing his whole world or whatever. You taking my kids away, you know, but I don't want anyone to have my kids. That's a sick mindset to have. He posted pictures of Easter, him with his kids on Easter, all of his kids, you know, taking these pictures. He posted them each day until he killed them. So to me, it's like, bro, if you seeing this and you have this love, how could you point a gun at them and put it? The kids were trying to get out the back door. He came into the door and he started killing the kids. You know, he didn't show an indication. Him and his neighbor waved at each other, and his neighbor said, "How you doing?" The next morning, the neighbor see police out there, like, "What's going on?" You know, and I'm saying, like, how could you shoot your kids in the back trying to get away from it? That's more than trying to talk to somebody about, hey man, you got to let a woman go or whatever. Another one that was abandonment, breakups, divorce. That's when a woman is more vulnerable when they're going through a divorce, when they're going through a breakup, or, you know, they're leaving somebody. So that's something that women got to take into consideration. Personality disorders. You know, the guy that did the thing in Shreveport, he said, "God forgive me." He had panic issues and he had anger issues. You know, so these are things that could be a clinical disorder, something that the hospital, somebody could say, "Hey man, you schizophrenic," or whatever. These people are likely the ones that do things. Then when they say unemployment is a factor, you know, when a man feels worthless, useless, like he can't, and I don't understand how that will make you kill your woman, or it can cause problems in the relationship, but it shouldn't be anything where you want to kill somebody. You have to learn how to deal with things or seek help.
Well, you never know who you're in a relationship with, whether it's a family, whether it's a friend. You just never know, and this is why this thing is escaping us, because there's no sense in doing what we're saying, that we're reading and we're discussing, but it happens over and over again. So, like you said, this is a problem, and I still go back to say it's not about whether. You said, well, you don't think it's that they're afraid. Well, it's all the above. It's not just one thing, is what I'm saying. And I think we as a community, many of us, not all of us, many of us, we are afraid to talk about it, because you and I are just now talking about it. It's been going on since the beginning of time. And I don't mean afraid as far as, you know, we never want to bring it out, but a lot of people are tuning in tonight, and if they're honest, they're going to say what I'm saying in the sense, and yeah, we are afraid. You know how you have certain things in your family that you don't talk about? This is one of those things, and we should talk about it. And if we did, maybe we would get to the bottom of some of it. But all these tips that you're giving, if you're in a relationship with a man that's abusive, and you knew he was abusive before you met him, but you're still taking a chance on him, you just never can tell it. I don't have the answers to it because I think it's too complex.
If y'all want to call in, it's 361-405-6111, 361-405-6111. We love to hear your perspective. We have a lot of comments from Frankie Ray. He said, true. He said, all right, I guess, you know, we've been missing your comments. He said, you have a right, you have to fight in a relationship. There is no relationship. Excuse me. He said, and you also got to let go. He said, this is a sickness that has nothing to do with love taking a life. And I appreciate all the comments that you gave. If y'all want to call in, like I said, give us your perspective, 361-405-6111. I was looking at the Sanctuary for Families, and they had an article called The Silent Epidemic of Femicide in the United States. And this article was March the 10th, 2023. And they say this is not a low income problem, because see, they also say, like I said, unemployment. They say it's a sociology thing when you talk about Black, you talk about race, because there's a difference in economics and everything that's happening in the Black community. But they said that out of the 25 most populated countries, because they talk about women being oppressed in other countries. They said, but out of 25 most populated or populous countries of high income countries, 70% of the cases that occur with femicide, murdering of women, is in the United States. So that's a problem here in the United States. It's isolated to us as far. But then the thing is, what is it about the United States that you're not going to find in England or all these other countries? We have guns, and guns is another factor. A person that loved, you know, women, most of the time, women that's murdered, they're murdered by guns. Most mass shootings happen with guns. Most mass shootings inside the household, it happens with guns.
Yeah.
So,
you know, and I want to touch on this because I think I agree. This brother Frankie Ray, he says that is a sickness, and he's absolutely correct. He says that it has nothing to do with love, and he's absolutely correct. Taking a life. What I'm saying is, listen to me. If you have a misguided view of what love is, and you feel as though this is what it is, and you take a person's life because you say, and you write in your, and this is not all the time, but you have a little note in your pocket or leave it on the table. You say, I did this because I loved her. Now we know that's weird. That's a whack view of what it is. But if that person feels that way, that's the reasoning that they did that because they don't understand. And it's easy to say, let a person go when you're in a relationship with them, because I'm staying on that. And you're talking about murder regardless, and you're right, we have a problem with that. But once again, if you're in a relationship with somebody, most of us, not all of us, most of us, we don't know how to let go. We can say sitting up here, not you, but we as men, we can say, well, I'm just going to let it go. But when the reality comes, we don't let it go. That's why you have the problems that we have today, because we don't know how to let it go. Some of us do. There's a lot of people like you, brother, and myself. But the majority of us as men, I don't believe that we can be in a relationship, and I'm going back to that, where when we break up with a person, it's over with. Unless if something catastrophic happens, especially if they do something to us. But for the most part, as a man, we don't know how to let go. It's not as easy as we're making it sound, as far as when you deal with a person and you're done with them. Okay, it's a done deal. It's over with.
I'm gonna say this. Let me interject.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's easy, but I say I could do it like that.
You can.
Yeah. And I'm saying this. I'm saying like this. If it's something that makes me like, and I'd say this with a woman, if you tell a man, I am not going to have you putting your hands on me,
mm-hmm.
and that man puts his hands on you,
mm-hmm.
and then you stay around, and what did you just let him know? Mm-hmm. You could tell him what you're not going to put up with, and he come back with, baby, I'm sorry, you know, this is this. My thing is, if he know mm-hmm. that you're not going to, if you tell him I'm not going to tolerate it, and you still tolerate it, then mm-hmm. what you just showed is that what you tolerate and what you don't tolerate doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So to me, if a woman wants to, if I tell her, look, I'm not going to put up with any infidelity, a woman could tell a man the same thing. Mm-hmm. But if you see him doing this and then you want to believe what he's saying, and everybody's seeing him with this woman every place, and then you're still putting up with, then that's telling you tolerating it. Yeah. So don't tell me. So my thing is, don't tell a man, don't put your hand on. See, I'm going to say this. If my daughter tell a man, mm-hmm. don't put your hands on me, mm-hmm. she may not even be telling that man for her. Mm-hmm. She don't even have to say, I'm gonna leave you. Mm-hmm. My dad gonna make you leave her. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna tolerate it. Yeah. And I'm gonna tell a man that's with anybody else to say, hey, I'm not gonna tolerate this. Right. And right. I'm saying it's not gonna be, when I say no tolerate, it's not gonna have anything to do with her, what she wants. Yeah. And see, here's where I'm at with that. I'm so glad that you're like that. But what I'm saying is, I'm going to add to that. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking away from it. I'm going to add to it. There's a lot of people who don't have fathers that's going to say that. There's right. a lot of women who are weak. There's a lot of women who go along to get along. That's why we never understood, why does a woman go back in an abusive relationship when it happens time and time again? We look at her and we say, oh, she's a fool. Just like the alcoholic. We say, well, he knows that he's killing himself. She's killing herself. They keep drinking. You don't know what these people are going. Now, I'm not giving them a pass for it. I'm just saying that everybody has a different situation, and there's no one bullet that's going to solve all. But in your case, you can say what you want to say, and I concur. I'm the same way. Everybody's not like us, and I'm saying that's why the problems that we have today are the way they are, and we just have to accept the fact that you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know who you are in a relationship with, because you can be in a relationship with a woman or a man, or you could just be friends with somebody that's just, they look like they're the best there is to be. And one day, like say, and this is wild, let's just say you and I have a beautiful relationship. We always talking about issues and all that. Let's say I come over here one day and for whatever reason, I just lose it. And the next thing they know, they say, well, you know, Kev, Jah did this to Kev. And then everybody that knows us going to be like, wow, that had nothing to do with love. It had nothing to do with, it's just, you don't know who you're dealing with. And I'm saying that we have to leave that room open for people like that, because there's a lot of people like that. And we have to. And if you show me who you are, in that time, and I understand it could be a stressful time, I can't continue with that relationship.
Oh yeah, you should.
So that's what I'm saying.
You should.
And I'm saying I don't care who you're invested in. And if you can't let that person go for the sake of your own life, then there's a problem with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If they're giving you any of these flags, that's why I brought up the things that we have to be able, because another thing is if they was, it says something about if they were incarcerated, personality disorders. You know, a lot of times women get with people that's been in prison and all these things, they have these personality type disorders and, or clinical diagnosis and things like this. And you end up in a relationship and this person could talk to you any kind of way, but you have to understand that if that person did something to put themselves in a prison, it's not all of them, but I'm saying you got to be looking at that like, hey, you know, if a woman told me, yeah, well, I poisoned my last husband, but he was, you know, he did all this. Right. I'd be like, oh, that's cool. Okay. I understand. Yeah, he probably deserved, but I'm not going to, what's going to make me concede.
Now, let me push back on it. Let me push back on that. Now, then I know that's a far-fetched illustration, but if a woman tells you that, you're going to say, wow, when you leave, you're like, you know what? I'm done. But the next man may not say that, man. He may say, well, that was him because of what he may believe that the guy was abusive or whatever the case is. So I'm just saying that everything is different. So what I'm really saying tonight is I'm agreeing with you 100%. I'm just adding the part that no one seems to know, and it's okay to say we don't know why, although it doesn't make sense to us, how you can do this to a family, familicide. Why would you do it? How could you do it? You know, these are the things that we can't give an answer to.
You're going to read Brother Shabazz?
Yeah,
peace.
Brother,
What's up, brother?
yeah.
Okay.
He says, peace and blessings, brothers. I totally reject men physically assaulting women. I have never, he says, I have never will. I have never have and never will. My favorite aunt was killed by her husband when she was getting a divorce. He says, their two sons, my cousins, have grown up traumatized because they saw it as adolescents. Their dad threatened to kill them if they ever told. I'm likewise with my only daughter. No one better ever touch her while I'm living. Her brothers will handle that as well. Those are wonderful comments that we should have about how men should feel. But every man, every situation is not like that.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm saying, okay, so let's corrective measures, preventive maintenance.
Okay.
What is it that we can do in the Black community to stop us from killing our own women?
We can have broadcasts like this. We can talk to young men when they're in relationships about not being controlling and that you don't physically put your hands and see, this should be taught to boys when we're growing up, that you don't put your hands on women regardless of what happens. All we can do is try to demonstrate and show them and give them the corrective measures. But at the end of the day, I can tell a boy all I want to, that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. When he strikes and does what he does, that's a decision that he made. And I'm saying that we should have these measures. We should say things about how we should prevent them. And all these, some of these may work in some instances, and I applaud those. But there's always going to be that one that sneaks through, that gets out, because in our hearts, it's like a man said, well, if I catch my wife or my girlfriend doing this, I'm just going to say, hey, you know what? That's cool. And then when he catches her, it doesn't happen like that. And that's all I'm saying, that everything is not always picture made. You're not saying that, but I'm saying in life, we have to leave room. That's beautiful what he's saying. If I had a daughter, I would say, you know what? I would say the same thing, but every daughter doesn't have a father like that. And some of these guys know that. And I'm saying this, these fathers need to be like that. They should be like that.
I'm going to say this also, man. Like I have friends, and see, these little tendencies or red flags that come up. I can't have a friend that likes to beat on women. I don't have a friend that sells drugs to Black people or people, period. Right. Because that's character issues. And I had one of my best friends that was like that with women. I told him, bro, I don't respect that. You lost respect with me, you know, and some of our other friends was cheering it on, you know, and see, like when you say we should know, but like we grew up in a neighborhood that men abusing women or beating women, and girls were seeing it. We were seeing it. We laughed. We thought it was funny. So-and-so beating this woman out in the street, or so-and-so, you crazy, you know, and all this stuff. People laughing because that's all we were exposed to. We didn't know any better. So what I'm saying is, we have to correct those things
of course.
after we know better.
Of
See,
course.
some women gonna grow up and they're gonna see that happen. They're gonna see that happening with their mom, and they're gonna think that this is the normal way.
Yep.
When couples get
It's
into
true,
arguments, that they gonna be fighting, and they don't want their mom to get hit, but they're gonna say, okay, she was throwing a bottle at him and he threw it, you know, and they're gonna think this is normal for them to grow up.
That's true.
So we have to correct those type of things say that this is not normal. Sis, if he's putting his hands on you, this is not normal.
That's true.
It's nothing that you should be able to say or do. If you got that much of a problem with it, walk away.
You know, two things can be true, and I'm learning that. The older I get, I'm beginning to learn that there are so many things that are true, and it's all a part of putting them together to say, what can we do to help solve the problem that we're facing today? And that's right. We should definitely look at those red flags, because a lot of us as men, we don't look at the red flags. So the encouragement that you're giving is wonderful. When you see a red flag, pay attention to that red flag. Don't think that it's going to go away because you're this, you know, this kind of this person that can make everything right all the time.
And it's different for men and women though too, and because the statistics I gave you, most women die on the hands of men more than men die in the hands of women.
Okay.
So I'm saying, so I'm not looking at a woman as like, okay, you may murder me. She may do it, but it's not, I mean, it's highly unlikely.
Right.
But men, I'm saying the physical part.
Yeah,
I'm not going to sit up there and I'm going to be talking to my homeboy, yo, you letting your woman, what's wrong? You got a black eye. I fell in the shower. No, I know that's not going to be the thing. So we don't look at women as being, you know, abusive like that. But they can be abusive as far as how they treat you. And I'm never going to let anyone treat me less than who I am. And this is what I'm telling women. Don't let anyone treat you like you're less than who you actually are. True. Understand who you are. You are not somebody to be hit on.
Exactly.
You're not someone to be mad. Now, if you're this a woman that say, well, I'm doing this, well, that's your fault. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be grabbing a man up. And I've been in relationships like that where women thinking they could put, because they know I don't hit them.
Right.
And it's like, so then they take it, you know, well, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And it's like, well, then I got to manhandle her and say, yo, this ain't that type of party. And if it's gonna be that party, I'm gonna leave the party. You know, you let me know, because I'm not gonna. If I tell you one time, that's all I need to tell you.
I hear you.
So that's what I'm saying. We have to understand and look at the red flags. Brother JB Blackman said, as Dr. Amos Wilson so rightly said, we are as BM and BW, black men, black women, out of our African minds. So I'm gonna ask you, what do you mean? What do you think he meant by that? Do you think that you're saying that this is not an African type thing to be abusive to women?
No, I think what he's saying, what Dr. Amos Wilson is saying, is because of what has happened to us as a people, the way we think about relationships, the way we think about people, the way we think about all of the things that we've dealt with in America. We don't have the type of mind that we can think and do things positive to help the community, because anybody that lets 10% of the people rule them and subjugate them, and they don't do anything about it, and we give in to it every year, it's the same thing. We have to be out of our minds to let somebody do us that way. So I think the brother's saying, he rightly said, we black men and black women, we are out of our African minds, and also the African concepts. When you go back into time, which we're in a different time here now, what happened back then is that would have been unheard of, because there was always murders, but it wasn't as prevalent because we've gotten so far removed from a lot of the principles that we should be abiding by. So
that means most of Africa is out of their mind too, because a lot of Africa is abusive to their women, and I mean, it's happening all over. But I'm saying, these issues that we have with dominating women, and murder, and I'm not talking about just dominating women. I'm talking about murder. You know what I'm saying? That's different. And you murdering somebody that you love.
It's how you see. See, we don't even see women as who they really are. And I said earlier at the outset, and I'll say it again. You look at someone, and this is different, but it leads to it. Listen to the music. Listen to Rihanna and Eminem. Listen to all these songs. Even back in the day, the Isley Brothers, they had songs about love making and all this stuff. But some of this stuff talks about where I'm going to do something to you if you leave me, if you walk out that door. And some of us, the blues and all of that, we internalize a lot of it. And I'm not saying a song made us do it, but if you're telling me this, the songs are telling me this, I see it in my past relationships. I see my uncles and my aunts carry on like that. When I become an adult, then I think that's normal. I begin to believe that's normal, which is not normal. And it's like, this is what we have to do to try to at least correct it, is to have these kinds of discussions about it.
I think it's some kind of sickness that got to be there. For you talking about murder, suicide too, what can somebody else can do to make me kill myself? Not only just kill them, but kill myself, or make me kill them, my kids,
Yeah.
and myself.
Kev,
You know, it's nothing that anybody could do
Right.
that should make me or make anyone kill their own kids.
But there's something that people can do to make other people do it. That's why they do it.
I don't even understand.
That's what you shouldn't. You shouldn't. I don't understand.
I don't know what anybody else could do to make somebody, unless there's something within you that's not right.
You should never understand that, because I don't understand it, because no one should be able to understand what would make a man. I'm talking
about somebody else making somebody do it. I think that's something within yourself. Yeah. That's something within yourself that's not right. That anything that whatever it is. I mean, if it's a drug that's making you do that, you hallucinating, or you think that the world is just, just go leave yourself and go do that. Go kill yourself.
Yeah,
but do that. Don't kill.
I know what
you
you're
have
saying.
No reason to kill a kid. I can't even fathom anyone giving me an explanation for someone killing their kid unless they're mentally unstable.
Right. What makes a kid go into a school and shoot all these other students and then turn the gun on himself or herself? These are the things that there's no answers to. But I know what you're saying when you're saying you don't understand it, because that's a sick mindset.
I don't see them doing a mass shooting and killing themselves, not kids. I haven't seen that.
Well,
but I think it's more prevalent. I'm saying that's I haven't seen it.
Well,
so I seen them like get apprehended by the cops, and they did, like the guy that did that in Uvalde and all these things like that. He's not a kid, but I'm talking about the kids that did it in Florida, the Columbine things. They did something, and to kill somebody else is different than you killing your family. Killing people that you don't like is different than you killing people that's loved ones. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. I don't put them in the same category. Mass murders have been doing something, and that's not us. So when I'm talking about us killing us and our women, and women that should be protected by the black man, Malcolm X said the most unprotected one person in the world is the black woman. And the reason that is because the black man don't stand up to her, for her, like other men do for their races. In fact, we do the opposite, like in hip hop or all these social media. We calling our women bees and all this stuff like this. So we thinking, pimping is cool and all this stuff. Whatever, being a player is cool. Right. And other people are doing that. They looking down on our woman. If you look down on an Irish man, he's going to protect his woman. Yeah. He's not going to call her an Irish whore amongst our women. All this. The Asian's not going to do that, but we do that. That's why the black woman is the most unprotected. And not only is she the most unprotected, now she has a predator that's within her own household a lot of times, more than any other woman. Yeah, and the black man has been taught to be the way he is, and he's agreeing to these things. And this is why when we do our broadcast on the mental slave, a lot of it's going to come full circle, because this is the thought process that we have. We have fed into the lies about our own selves, and now we've turned on ourselves. And this is what happens when we as a people don't care for those who look like us. When a man kills his own mother, when a man kills his wife, when a man kills his kids, there is no excuse for that. And nothing that no one says is going to make me believe. Now I understand. I don't understand that. I think it's beyond words when people do this, but we have a problem because it's happening more and more within us, and it's us as men who are doing it. And this is why I think we have to bring light to this, shed light on this. And if you think this broadcast was something, brothers and sisters, I'm going to put out another pitch. This Sunday, please, we're asking all of you that's out there that watch the Jah Kev show to meet us this Sunday. Come around 2:45, because at 3 o'clock, we're going to be at the Mission Branch Library, 3134 Roosevelt Avenue in San Antonio, Texas. We're going to do a remote live broadcast. What you see here is going to be done there, but we're going to have the subject. The topic is going to be heavy on the heart. Whatever's on your heart, you can bring it. If you want to even bring this back, you can come and talk about it. We'll have microphones in this aisle so you can kind of say what you want to say. And we're going to just let people know that this broadcast is not just a broadcast that meets behind closed doors. We want to get out and allow you to come and be a part of what we do. Okay, I'm going to leave with this. I gave improper statistics. And it said of all female homicides, 93%, 93% and 92 are killed by men that they knew. 92% of the women that are killed, they're killed by men that they knew. 63% are killed by current husbands, boyfriends, or exes. So I said like 70-something%. It's 92% of women that die in this country. They're dying at the hands of a man that they know. So I think I think this is a conversation that we need to be aware of. I think I don't know if we know this, it's happening around us. Brother Shabazz, this happened in your family. It's things that people I know it happened to, but it didn't dawn on me. I didn't gather the chips together and say, damn, man, this is an epidemic. This is a problem that we got to solve in the Black community, whether for whatever reason, whether it's mental health reasons, that's going under the radar, for somebody to kill 7 of their own kids, for these men to kill their wives, and they have money, they have success. You know, they're mayors, they're dentists, and this the first lady of Virginia. You know, he's a lieutenant governor of the state, and she is being murdered. It's not just a in the hood type thing.
Right.
You know, so this is something that's going under the radar that we have to acknowledge as men and as women, and think about that and talk about that kind of stuff with our kids growing up. We got to have corrective measures and what we call preventive maintenance.
Yeah. And I think that's really wonderful that we're able to even bring it out like this, and to go back and forth, and to allow people to know that this is a problem, and it's going on right before our very eyes, and to just not say anything about it and to act as if it's not going on is a travesty. It's a disgrace. It's a shame. And I just want to say, man, I'm glad you brought this subject out, because we definitely need to talk about it, and we can also continue it down the road, because I will never understand why a man would do what you're telling me that I see every other month, because he's in a relationship. I would never understand that. I would never understand it.
All right. And that's peace. We see y'all Sunday, hopefully.